Hello, and welcome to Why I Love Warhammer, the series where I go into a borderline unscripted ramble into why I love something in this hobby. On this episode, we're going to be tackling the Death Guard, the Plague Marines of Nurgle. This is an army that is played by one people in my local gaming group, and they really live up to everything they should be. They are disgusting looking in the best way. They look diseased, they look wrong, and it's just perfect for Nurgle. They are disgustingly resilient, as the rule says. They are incredibly hard to take off the table. So let's just go through a few of my favourite models from the range, and hopefully you'll be able to see why I love these guys too, and maybe you'll love them as well. Start with Mortarion. Mortarion here is horrifying. If you look on Google Images for the Mortarion model paint jobs, you get some where people paint on these beautiful looking eyes or like really realistic looking imagery. It's a proper canvas for an artist to go crazy with that I think just works really well for this type of model. And so I always tend to use the images from the Games Workshop slash Warhammer official website. I don't want to use someone else's work, but some of the other alternate paint jobs you can get for Mortarion here are phenomenal. Now, lore-wise, unless I'm misunderstanding or I've got the wrong end of the stick here, Mortarion, Primarch of the Death Guard of Nurgle, Primarch of the Death Guard, didn't want to join with Chaos, didn't like Chaos. He liked Horus, wanted to be on Horus's team. So comparing the 30k, the Horus Heresy version of Mortarion, with this kind of grimy but white armor, with this functional looking battle scythe, and someone who hated the Chaos Gods, comparing that to this guy is insane to me because he's so different, he's so mutated and so corrupted from what he used to be. So he's got this terrifying gas mask on his face. The face is all like burned and scarred up. That scythe still looks like it's a formidable weapon, but it doesn't look like a battle scythe. He's floating, but he's kind of being carried by these weird bug things, and he's got this like miasma draping down that's supporting him. He's got these huge wings with holes in them that are flying him about. He's got this sculpted on smoke coming out the back of him that I think just looks really cool. He's got the armor, which has gone the kind of this awful green shade that is just phenomenal. The center of focus isn't even on his face, it's on his chest. It's got these like life support tubes coming out of the center of his chest. That gun looks really twisted as well. He's just an absolute corruption of everything that he used to be and used to stand for, and I think that is incredible visual storytelling with one sculpt, and it doesn't hurt that he's got a couple of Nurglings on his base that are also that they always make a model better in my opinion. I love a good Nurgling. Okay, the Plague Bearers. I love the Shambling Horde. I love how these guys have taken a couple of these guys have taken like a shoulder pauldron here. This guy's wearing a lab coat as if he's like worked in a lab where there's been some kind of breach. I think that looks really cool. I love this shambling horde, and they've got the very zombie thing going down. This guy's got a weird leather suit going on. They've all got a melee weapon of some kind that's been shackled together. And as much as this force is meant to be hyper elite, there's something to be said for a shambling horde of zombies. It's cool. And in lore, the demons of Nurgle are quite happy. They like being demons of Nurgle. They're loving life. The actual Plague Marines, the actual corrupted, possessed, creatures that didn't originate from the warp, they aren't so happy. They're not loving life. And these guys seem to be like a halfway house. They're kind of smiling, but they're kind of pained smiles. And I think that's an interesting halfway house between the two schools of thought. Okay, next. Standard Plague Marines. I think they're cool. They're big, they're chunky. They've got these. Now, I think these are Mark III helmets. So I didn't know for years. Like, I think we were kind of. Yeah, I think it was like near the end of 8th edition that I started developing an understanding that there are multiple different versions of Space Marine armor. So you got Mark 1 through to Mark 8 or 9, where we're at now. Or maybe we're only at Mark 6. I'll be honest, I can't tell the difference between a lot of the armor types. Yeah, I'm sure people who know very well the difference between all the different armor types. But I can tell a Mark III helmet kind of, because it's kind of this kind of shape with the lines, but it's not one I'm particularly familiar with. But with these guys, with the Plague Marines, I love how different they all are. I love these tentacles coming out of these. I love these bony spikes coming out. They haven't gone too heavy on the trim, which is nice for me. I'm not so good at painting trim, but also they're all just so different from each other. Like, look at they've all got different weapons. This guy here, if you ever play Team Fortress 2, the medic, their healing gun has a similar operation where it's held and they kind of push this lever forward, and that's what triggers it. It's kind of like the inverse of that. This thing is spewing disease. Yep. With this game, when you've got really, really detailed, really, really different sculpts, in a horde army, it can be a bit disconcerting because like every 10th model will look the same, but you've got 100 of them. But with these guys, so with with the Death Guard for Nurgle, for Chaos, your Custodes for the Imperium, and for your Harlequins of your Xenos, it's such a low model count for an entire army that you're not really gonna have more than you're never really gonna have more than like 20 Plague Marines in your force, if you wanted to be balanced ish, give or take. So you're not going to have so much repetition of models. So when you've got all these different details on them, they'll feel very unique. Like, I love these axes with these spikes coming out. This flail. I love the bells with this kind of Nurgle symbol attached to the bells. It just all looks really cool. And yeah, this chain gun being held in one hand, it's just really cool looking. I love these kind of engines coming out of the shoulder pads. I love Plague Marines. They just look so cool, and that color, that Death Guard green. I have a spray can for that paint, and it doesn't really like. It's a good start, but imagine trying to mix those from first principles just using pots would be incredible. And these guys, I again, they're just so cool. I love this kind of flat lump of flesh. I love these two Nurglings here. I think they're really cool. This kind of extra level of possession, I think is really cool. I love this glooping stuff coming out. It's just a really, yeah, there's just something about these guys that I think is really interesting, and there's a lot of kind of personality to them. Like, this guy is kind of smiling through stuff, and even though he's got this tactical rock going on, I think it just works really well. Okay, next, I think these guys are Terminators, just because they're a bit chunkier and they've got more layers to their shoulder pad pauldron things. But again, they're big, they're chunky. Look at this guy with this huge ball on a chain that he's just swinging around. He's got tentacles coming out of his shoulder, like extra set of arms, and the classic chainmail and this plate armor here, more chainmail here. Like, when the setting has so much medieval influence with kind of all these kind of medieval melee weapons, flails and swords and axes and stuff, having that medieval armor really adds that believability factor for the models. Like, I'm not going to say it's realistic because doesn't really work that way, but it's very believable to have that kind of chainmail and plate armor for these guys. And I love this guy's bug eyes. He's got a bug eyes on his helmet. It's just, it makes him kind of look a bit like a fly, like a really fat, chunky fly. And for the whole disease aesthetic that Nurgle has, and lore-wise, I think that's really cool. This guy at the front, he's got this shield kind of on his shoulder, which is really reminiscent of the Chaos and Imperial Knights, because they've got a shield-like thing there, which I love that kind of visual coherency between all the models. Okay, Mephitic Blight Hauler. This thing is cool. It's like a demon is stuck inside the vehicle and it's kind of trying to burst out. So it's like coming out a bit here at the guns. It's kind of cracking here, but it's got this maw that's kind of... If someone was scared of beetles, like if someone had an intense beetle phobia, I would imagine that this is the mouth they imagine beetles to have. Because it's got that kind of beetle-like aesthetic. It's got these fang-like things. It's just horrifying all the way down, and that's beautiful to me. There's something... And these treads as well. It's like... These... Like, the people who don't know much about this hobby, shout out to my family who watch these videos. The vehicles in the Chaos factions, they're referred to as demon engines. And it's like the soul of a demon is trapped within a vehicle. And I feel like it is so true and so apparent with this, because it's like a demon that's stuck inside of a vehicle with these tank treads and engines, and it's trying to come out. And that's just really cool to me. And I love this little scorpion stinger as well. It just adds something to the model. I can't think of a functional use for this thing in as within the context of the game. Because it's not going to like jab forward to work like a scorpion sting. It's not really armor. It's just there to be cool and spiky. And you got to give props to it for that. You got to give props to a model that's just happy to say, this is there because it looks cool. Okay, Typhus. I like this guy. He's got a cool pose. He's kind of holding up his scythe like this. Yeah, up to the sky. He's very victorious. I love the visual style of having a helmet being a slightly different colour to the rest of the body. This Nurgling here... if you are a Star Wars fan, Jabba the Hutt has that little rat thing that's kind of by his side being schemy. It's named Salacious B. Crumb, for anyone who likes that kind of trivia. But it's this conniving little rat thing that attaches itself to Jabba the Hutt. I get that vibe from this little Nurgling here. This is Salacious B. Crumb to Typhus the Hutt. And I love these little fly-like things he's got off the side. It looks a bit like the Godzilla monster Megaguirus, which is just kind of weird and horrifying to me. And I like how this guy's also got his scythe a bit like Mortarion does. In the lore, Typhus was previously called Typhon, kind of that like one under the Primarch. And I like how a lot of the different, a lot of these Chaos factions have kind of the dude who sits just under the Primarch, who's just there to mess things over, just there to ruin their day. Mortarion has Typhus, Magnus has Araman, etc. It's just this very interesting thing to have someone who's kind of who's like the number two, wants to be number one. And yeah, Typhus just meets that. Tallyman. I think this guy's really interesting. It's a horrifying looking grey face to try and paint up. B, if you're so inclined for a painting challenge, having the writing on this book will be really cool. And it's the kind of thing where I know if I were to pick this guy up, I'd try and paint it so that the names on the list were my local gaming group, so that it was if he was writing down the names of the people I play this game with. I love this little skull abacus he has back here. being held up by these kind of tentacle-like things. I think that's really cool. This little Nurgling down here holding a bunch of scrolls, I think just adds something to the character. Also, he's standing on the books. Now, the tactical rock thing where a model is seen to be like standing on top of has a 1 foot in a rock. It's a bit of a meme in the Warhammer community of, oh, this guy's got a tactical rock. It kind of adds a sense of elevation in a way that can feel a little bit cheap. But I like the twist on it they've got here. He's standing on the 2 books, and it adds character to the model, makes him look distinctive, but isn't the same type of distinctive as it is for everybody else. I love this thing coming out of his shoulder pad with this kind of speaker system he's got going on. I think that looks really cool. Okay, the blight hauler. I love this thing. This is just pure artillery. The guy in my local gaming group who plays Death Guard, he runs 3 of these, but he proxies in. He uses like an ashtray, a mug, and a box to represent these guys on the table. Because why wouldn't you want to run 3 of these? They are so cool looking. Look at this little cowl clear it's got up the front, and there's these mortars. There's an old joke of there's a bullet with your name on it, but a grenade is addressed to whom it may concern. This is a to whom it may concern. It's not targeting. This is just firing mortar shells out onto the battlefield, and I think that looks awesome. And it just adds. I love these spiky bits of armor. Like, again, I don't know what usefulness they have. I don't know what their use would be for a real tank, but for the purposes of a model, I think they look awesome. This Death Guard symbol up here, these flamers coming up. It's just beautiful. And again, I'm a sucker for any model that has tank treads. I think the tank treads on a Warhammer model look really cool, and it's so spiky. And this here, it looks like flesh is being pulled to kind of accommodate the shape. It's just such an interesting model that I just think it's amazing looking. Okay, these guys, I think they're called plague drones. I think they look really cool. These guys can get used in both the Warhammer 40k setting and the Age of Sigmar setting, which I'm always a sucker for that kind of level of utility, be able to play them in both. The older I get, the more bugs skeeve me out. When I was a kid, I loved bugs more than anything. These days, I'm not as good with insects as I used to be. And the idea of these giant demon insects flying about is horrifying. And being that big, the buzz would be a low, droning rumbling, and that would be even scarier to me. And if a model would scare the daylights out of me in real life, it's brilliant for the game. I think they look cool. I think they look horrifying. These kind of 3 eyes, these horrifying mouths. It's just brilliant. And again, the Nurgle demons on top, they do not hurt the model. They make them into steeds. And I'm a sucker for a non-horse steed in these games. Again, these guys, I think they just look really cool. I love this guy. He's blowing the flames out of our hand, but he's kind of going at them like he's a fire breather. I think that looks really cool. This guy, the huge bell, I think looks cool. This Nurgling on top, just phenomenal. Okay, the bloat drone looks a bit like an elephant. These guys are terrifyingly fast. They've got these flies that I think add something. Also, one thing that's really cool with this model is that it's not faking not having a flying base. Because the old flying base that I personally prefer have like that clear plastic that you just kind of put the model on top and that's where it sits. But some of the newer sculpts, they'll be like just jumping off a rock, and it's trying to give the illusion of flight, but they still look like they've either just landed or just jumping off of something. This has these cables dripping down that are keeping it in place, but the cables don't look like they're supporting it. And to me, that makes it a far better illusion of flight And again, this thing here looks like an elephant trunk with bug eyes that I think adds something. I love these jet engines that are on the model as well. Everything about this model is just so cool. Again, this guy's mostly here for the Nurglings. This Nurgling here and the classic sassy Nurgling, I just think they look really cool. And they're always worthy of a place in a list if they've got a good Nurgling. It's nothing against the guy. He's got a cool power fist. He's got this this kind of long blade here. He's got the chainmail. He's got these spikes coming out. He's a cool model, but it's the Nurglings attached to him. This one specifically, this pink one here, that really put him on the list of my favourite Death Guard models. The extra Plague Marines. I like this Nurgling down here. He's carrying a stick. This is the one that's in a box of 3 because just classic, your normal Plague Marines come in boxes of 7, but if you want to field a unit of 5 or 10, it doesn't work. So they do sell an extra 3. But I like the look of these 3. I think they do look. I like the way they look. They're kind of spiky. I like these guns. I like this skull basher thing. I think that looks really cool. So yeah, these guys are here as well for being awesome. And again, just chunky Plague Marine guys. They're fun. I think this guy is called the Biologus Putrefier. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. I love this kind of syringe gun he's got going on. It just looks horrifying. And the fly-like mouth thing where he's got like a needle injector coming out of his mouth is just deeply disconcerting. It's the kind of thing that if you think about it too hard, it becomes even more haunting. And these kind of holes he's got, like some stuff's bursting out of him, is just so horrifying in the best way. This guy, again, I think he's cool. He's got a cool skull bash thing with the bug eyes in the skull. He's got a bug eye here. And he's got this Nurgling here. He's carrying some kind of stick grenade. He's just loving life. I think they're really cool. He's just, fun model. Okay, last model on the list. This is a kind of fortification piece. I just think it looks cool. It looks cool because it's a cool industrial chimney. But there's something about it that, despite having this shape to just resemble the Nurgle symbol, still looks like a believable thing that would exist in the universe of Warhammer 40,000. And that is just important if you're going to have that kind of fortification that needs to look believable. But yeah, really, I think this is kind of the why I love Death Guard. They are this insanely disgusting looking disease faction that just everything about them is so conducive to that image that it's really good fun to see. It's fun to play against and fun to kind of theorize and list build around. I started this with the Primarch of the Death Guard, so I'm going to say comment question of the day is favourite Primarch. Regardless of who your favourite faction is, favourite Primarch in the setting. If you please do the liking and subscribing, that'd be brilliant as well. I'm really hoping we can try and get to, say, 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And we are, by the time this video comes out, we should have just passed 200 watch hours on this content. So what I'll ask is, if you are feeling generous, feel free to mute the browser while you do this. But if you wanted to, start at the beginning of the Why I Love Faction Focus playlist and just play through the videos on 1/4 speed. That'd be brilliant, because that will up the watch hours, and it will mean that I can kind of, and in doing that, and the more watch hours this content gets, the more YouTube thinks that people are engaging with this content, and it will mean that you can get more of these videos and be faster to kind of have more of this content and see your favorite factions illustrated and favorite models and stuff like that. So yep, that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.